very, yeah, I'm sending, my blog is about that this week, my newsletter, because it's hard. Valentine's Day can be really hard for
Yeah,
even people that are in relationships if they're not getting what they need and want, and certainly for singles. Yeah.
yeah. As I put a post on social media, somebody commented about that, and I said, Valentine's Day is a day to drive people crazy because it's the one day of the year we're supposed to show romantic gestures, and if you can't do that, you're failed as a partner. How insane is that?
So, no, so
Anyway,
unfair.
yeah.
So
All right.
that's not our subject today.
No, we'll
We
get to that at some point,
certainly,
though.
we could certainly talk about that. It certainly could come up in the conversation about the
Yes,
upcoming
indeed.
holiday that, as you said, drives people crazy. So this is Let's Talk About Dating with Barry and Christine on WG. I can't even remember the letters. Thank you, CC. WGSN. I don't know where my brain went. DB Going Solo Network Radio and TV and podcast #1 Internet Singles Top Network. Thank you, CC. She always comes to my rescue.
Yeah, we jumped ahead.
Yeah, we did. Hi, Barry.
Yeah.
How are you
Hi,
today?
Hi, Christine. Good. Well, they're trying to keep cool. It's a toasty day today.
It really is. It's supposed to be 90 a few days in a row, and those people in the snow are not happy to hear that.
No, but they reckon the Super Bowl on Sunday in LA is going to be maybe the hottest one they've ever had.
I know.
It's like
Well, maybe
climate.
it'll be to our favor, though, because those Bengals are used to being in colder weather. So who knows?
Maybe they'll make it Rams' job easier. Anyway, let's get it. Let's get back
We'll
to the
hope
topic.
that. We'll hope that. Yes, we have a lot in a row. We have all these things happening at the same time. Valentine's Day and
Yes.
Super Bowl Sunday. Doesn't always happen that way.
No.
So
Yes.
today we're talking about baggage. Yours or theirs? Is it yours or is
Oh,
it
yes.
theirs?
Exactly.
And I know you've heard this before when people say, I want to date somebody with no baggage and I don't have any baggage. And I go, well, then I think you got to be under 2 years old because everybody has some baggage. How can you even get to be a mature person and not have some baggage? You have to have it. It's just part of growing up and maturing.
Hmm. And very few people are actually enlightened, transcendent beings when they go into a relationship, in which case that's a different state as well. So if you can be in a
Yes.
relationship, there's going to be baggage. It's part of the package, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
However,
And people think that baggage is only a bad word. And it's funny how people, so I don't think of it as a bad word.
hmm
It certainly can be if it's something that's holding you back in your own life, holding you back in relationships, making it difficult to have relationships. I think too that part of my baggage is what makes me unique and what makes me me, what quirks and idiosyncrasies I was born with or I've developed over my life. I consider that baggage. And my goal is that I meet somebody and they think they're charming or at least tolerable. But the thing is, it's the amount. I think that's really the thing. What is the amount and what does it include? If you open your trunk, what's inside there? And the thing that I want to always say to people is I'm going to sound like Dr. Phil, does it work for you? Is the stuff in your suitcase or your trunk working for you? And I think that's a really good place to start. What do you think?
well, personally, I have a different spin because what I think you're talking about for me, I will separate baggage from foibles, perhaps, or skills, or style of being, or personality. That sort of thing, because those kinks and strangeness you have are part of what you make up. And the truth is that none of us are perfect, but then none of us also are robots. So we're going to have styles and approaches to be. Whereas the baggage piece is something that, in the way I interpret it, is an emotional weight that we carry. That's why it's baggage. It feels like baggage you carry schlepping around. That will color your relationships in a negative way for me. So I turn baggage to me more of that component, whereas the other piece you're speaking about, I'm actually more like personality and uniqueness and that sort of thing. So I tend to sort of put those two apart. Um, but the thing is that yes, there's going to be ways of being that you've gotten used to in your life, especially as you get beyond like 25 years old, where you're getting not set in your ways necessarily, but you have a preference as the way you live life. That some people may look upon as being baggage. However, I personally look at that as being just preferences ultimately, or a way of being. So the baggage I think we want to talk about is really the deeper stuff that you're basically schlepping from relationship to relationship to relationship, and it's not making life any easier.
Yeah. The negative baggage,
Yeah.
what's holding you back, what's causing a short circuit to when you're trying to move from one place to another.
And it's what's limiting your ability to love and be loved, which is maybe the most important piece.
Yes, certainly for our conversations here, always, because that's what people are looking for that are single generally, is to find somebody that they'll love and that will love them back. Yeah.
Yeah. And those in relationship, I would hope too.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, that's really, and that you keep feeling that way while you're in relationship with
exactly.
them.
Yes. Yeah. Ongoing.
So I've told the story before about when I was dating between my marriages, and I kept dating the same people that weren't a match for me to marry. They were perfectly fine to date. They weren't mean or terrible. They just were not marriage material for me. And when I finally decided I wanted to get married and I started looking at what the traits were and what is it about me that was attracted to them and attractive to them, I said, oh my gosh, my baggage was this big U-Haul truck behind me that could have housed the goods of a family of 5. And it's just one little old me. And that was a lot of stuff that I'd been schlepping around for so many years. And it's funny, like I hadn't even looked in the boxes or
Mm-hmm.
examined what those things were forever. I mean, really, I would say ever. I'm not even, I might have looked at it at sometime in my 20s, but it had been since then. And so then looking at, well, what things were in there and what was working for me and all the things that weren't, the beliefs that I had, the beliefs about me, the beliefs about men, the beliefs about relationships, about marriage, all of those things I had to bring out into the light. So because I'm a visual person and a clothes and a hat person, I said, okay, here's an outfit. And why did I have that outfit? Oh, I can see why I had it from then, from when I was in my birth family, when I was in my first marriage. It helped me survive. It helped me get along with these people that were kind of challenging. Well, does that really fit my body, my personality, my inner being anymore? And it was amazing how many things I said, it doesn't fit me now. I don't need those things now, and to
Right.
let them go. And then there were a couple of things I'm like, I'm glad I'm a good listener, and it's good for me to learn how to get my thoughts out there too. So there was something I altered. So I took that outfit and I altered it. And then
Mm-hmm.
there were things that I'm a nice person. I like being a nice person. I didn't want to get rid of that. I wanted to keep that. That was something that's an integral part of me. And then my other piece I added to that. So then you go out and you say, is there something else I need? How to set good boundaries so that people didn't take advantage of my niceness, which I had allowed for a very long time.
Oh yeah.
So that's just one trait or 3 traits. But what I did, 3 different things I did with each of those traits. And so that's sort of what you and I take people through, is how to look at each thing. And does it need to go away? Can you alter it? Do you want to keep it? And is there something to add to it so that it
Yeah.
becomes really small?
So basically, switching from a steamer trunk to a purse,
Yes, yes,
metaphorically speaking.
yes. Or at least a suitcase that would fit in that bin overhead in the airplane,
Carry on. Yeah, carry on.
a carry-on. In the bin or under the seat even, that would be smaller,
Ooh,
because I
yes.
take a really big purse with me when I fly, and it fits under the seat just fine.
So, and that's the thing. When we were speaking a lot of metaphors and things about the baggage and such, but the reality is that many of us do carry a lot of wounds and emotional pain from past relationships, from our family upbringing, even and patterns we learned when we were young that we drag from relationship to relationship to relationship. And we talked before in this conversation about that way we get imprinted when we're very young, and we take that training, so to speak, as a young kid when we learn what love is expressed by without even consciously discussing it. We just go, that must be the way it is. And then we run it through adult life and we'll wonder why things don't work.
Mhm,
That's part of the baggage too. And this
mhm.
question about, is it their baggage or is it your baggage, is really, in a way, like it's actually a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
The reality is the baggage we're talking about, and this is the funny thing about this conversation, is that the baggage you drag from relationship to relationship, you're actually finding people who will be matching your baggage.
Uh-huh.
So when you walk into a relationship with your patterns of abandonment from some past experience, your parents or your relationships, you'll meet somebody whose pattern is abandoning. So their baggage, your baggage will fit together. So the truth is, this topic is really about, if you unpack your baggage, will their baggage go away? And as you were saying about, whether you want to get rid of it, alter it, or keep it. In relationship, when you start to resolve your baggage, you'll start either one, if you're single, choose different relationships than you did in the past without realizing it. Just your unconscious magnetism will effectively work differently. Or if the relationship you're in will have to change or go away itself because it will either match the new paradigm you're moving into, or they're going to be attached to their baggage and it won't be yours anymore, and you go bye-bye.
Yeah, because then you're not in the same sync wavelength anymore.
The loop, yeah, the same pattern. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And I also know that often we'll attract somebody that's going to bring it right in our face. Oh my gosh. Look at that about me that I
How
didn't
do
want
they
to.
know? How do they know? Yeah, how do they know? Because they didn't do it intentionally necessarily. Then it's like, well, if they didn't know, did I do something? Ooh, there's a good question.
What did I do to bring this into my life? Maybe it's something I need to look at. That has been, and you've said this too about yours, that I look back at past relationships and go, I see why that came. I see what I learned for next time.
See, that's the thing, is that question you asked is probably one of the most important questions. Like, what is it? How can I participate? How can I change it? What can I do about it? Because the temptation of times when we have this baggage experience is we presume it's the other person's and we're going to blame them. It's like, that's not really taking responsibility or even looking how to change things. You're just going to say, I'm just going to sit here and suffer and blame them for it, which is really self-victimizing, not very healthy.
No. And yes, there are people that are narcissists and psychopaths and sociopaths, that it is them doing their thing. And I still have to say, why are we with them? Why are we staying with them? Why are we trying to fix them? Why are we're feeling superior? We feel like we have more together than them. We have to look at why we're with somebody that has these really hard traits.
Yeah.
It's our choice and our responsibility, not theirs. They're not making us stay there. We are choosing to stay there. And why? What's an old pattern we have? What's an old message we have? What did we learn growing up that makes us stay in this relationship that's really bad for us? So there we're back to, what about me? What about my baggage is making this happen?
And this is the other part too, is when you start to recognize, I mean, this is good news and bad news when you look at it, but when you start recognizing it is your own stuff, that can be, oh crap, it's my own stuff. And then it can be, oh boy, it's my own stuff. I can do something about it. Because that's the biggest thing, is that you have now access to it. Because if it's somebody else's stuff, you can't really go in there and fix it for them because that's not your job. That's a therapist's job. And as a relationship partner, never be the therapist.
No. You and I don't want to be the therapist in our relationships. We've been very clear about that.
Absolutely. That's dangerous. That's walking on very thin eggshells. Don't do that. So the piece is that when it is something you have dominion over, you have freedom to do something about, there's such a gift there because it means you can change it. Now, caveat being, are you willing to take the steps to change it?
Yes.
Or are you going to go like, no, I'm going to put up with it? It's like, really? I mean, basically, just to be clear, if you're watching this video and you're planning to watch to the end, be prepared to take some responsibility for your own actions. If not, maybe this isn't for you.
Yes. Because it's very scary to look at it. I admit that out loud. Scary to look at it. And then I'm going to always say it's very brave to look at it.
And the good news is
both things. Yeah.
And the good news
you're
is
willing to look, because look at all the people who don't even look.
Oh, majority of people on the planet.
Yep.
Yeah. No, but so the good news is, just to finish that point, is that if you do go through this, you'll be so much freer, more happy, and loving afterwards. It's worth the journey. Even it may not look like it at this point, but follow through the other side, and you'll be perhaps surprised and amazed how life gets easier.
Yes. Yeah, it's one of those things that really sounded like a good idea in the beginning, and then they're in the middle, like, whose idea was that? And they should be shot. And But then when you're done, you go, oh yeah, that really was a good idea.
I've
So
had the
it's that
experience.
reassurance in the middle, right?
Yeah, I've had the experience a few times.
Yes.
At
And it's
least.
one of the things we coach. We coach people through that hard middle part
Yeah,
because we know personally and professionally what it's like to get to the other side.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is important to recognize what other people's baggage is. And in addition, as you said, it's really important to recognize you can do nothing about it. Nothing. It is up to them to decide if they want to do something differently.
Which brings forward the question: if you're in a long-term relationship and this baggage shows up for them and you notice it, you probably don't want to leave necessarily.
No.
However, if this pattern has been going on for 10 years and you haven't done anything about it,
Yes.
maybe it's worth seeking a therapist for yourself and for them. Maybe be together, maybe separately. But the truth is that the baggage is there. And if they're never going to change and they're not going to see a therapist, then you decide what your price point is.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, like you said earlier about your own baggage, it's like discard it, change it, or keep it in relationship. If they're not willing to change, then it's choice of either keeping it the way it is or leaving, which could be a hard
And
choice. So it's easy.
if you're going to stay, stop complaining.
Right. Yes.
People hate that advice. I go, how does it make you? I mean, really, let's just sit with that. How does it make you feel to be complaining all the time, to be frustrated all the time, to be angry at them? I get it. I wouldn't like this trait. Often the thing they're talking, I wouldn't want to live with it either. If you decide to stay, shut up.
Yeah. Which means that if their stuff keeps coming up and bugging you, if you keep nagging them, it may get worse rather than better.
Yes. And you
There may
feel
be
worse.
there might be a 1 in 1,000 chance they'll listen to you. Go, I'm going to fix that, but it's very unlikely. So yes, so clear. Like if you can't fix it, complaining about it doesn't change anything. It just makes you feel upset ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you can't fix
And
it,
do
you're going to
you want to feel
yeah,
upset all the time? I mean, that's a
right.
really good question to ask yourself. So if you're going to be upset all the time, then leave. And
Basically,
I
yes.
never tell anybody to leave with the idea that somebody might change. Sometimes that is the catalyst. It's a small percentage, but it can happen. You're leaving for your own well-being.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I just to speak from that experience. I mean, the last quote bad breakup I had definitely was where she dumped me, but I got clear that it was my turn to do the work. But I'm not the most average person. So, so just to be transparent, I've been as I said offline, or maybe as being the recording, that I've been on this path for over 35 years. I know enough to know that when stuff comes up, I've got a participation role in this too.
Yeah.
That's the other part too. The more you do this work, it doesn't matter whose the baggage is. There's upset on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
So do your own part. Do the work for your own part of it, so you can be free.
Yes. And that's the good news, bad news part again, too. Because it does feel like crap. You're like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And what kind of a person's like that? And so then you get to say, well, if I don't want to be friends with somebody like that, then how do I have that not be part of me?
Right.
But wow, I really like that and it works for me. Then own it. Do it 1,000% then.
Yeah.
So another story I've told before, that when I lived in my condo before, I had a white couch and cream carpeting, and my house always was very neat and tidy. And then when I'd finally allow them to come pick me up, right to the front door was cream carpet. They'd look inside and they'd go, wow, it's really like so neat and clean. And they were intimidated and concerned. And then
Yeah.
my lovely German late husband, who in their world, they always take off their shoes before they come in the house anyway. He came walking in my house and went, oh, look how neat and clean and tidy it is. And he loved it. He
Right.
thought it was like the coolest thing ever. It's like, bring
Well,
it on. So
that's the
that's
thing.
the other thing. If you own who you are, then you want to find somebody who thinks it's hot stuff too.
Exactly. I'm going to say that's the thing is when you find someone that clicks, that's the good news.
Oh.
You don't go. I mean, some people do go looking for relationships that push every button they have. Why, I don't know. Better off go to a seminar instead, or go to a therapist, then go find a relationship that doesn't push any buttons that way. Because we can have a conversation about soulmates on that one, but that's another topic. But I'm like, oh, I could go there, I could go there, I could go there. No. So
Uh-huh.
back to the baggage piece. Let's stick to the topic at hand. We're going to get through this topic. So, it may be good to talk about what baggage that we're talking about here, because we're talking about negative stuff, and I threw the example of abandonment out there. But baggage basically is something that upsets your inner peace. That is something that perhaps you dragged around and you've experienced before in other relationships or in life in general, and you may have this vague thought that maybe the person you're going to be in a relationship with next will either ignore it, be oblivious to it, or help you fix it. None of the above is going to happen, but it's nice to have that thought.
Mm-hmm.
So again, fixing it is key. And as you know, I said before, sometimes when you're single, it's the best time to do the. It's like when you're not driving on the freeway, that's a good time to do the maintenance work on the car.
Yeah.
So if you're not in a relationship, it's a good time. I've been on running car analogies in relationship lately, because I've been talking about this thing. If you don't do the inner work between relationships, and you go into the next relationship with the same old patterns, I call it painting over rust. That's my current analogy I'm using a lot. So my analogy is expanding to other parts of the car. It's like maintenance, repairs, etc., etc. So the thing is that, you can, because many people do, suppress, ignore, and hide the stuff that just showed up in the last relationship, and think it won't happen again in the next one. And then you'll repeat the same thing again and again, because at the end of that relationship, you're going to go, oh, this stuff again. You leave, hide it again, go to the next one. You can't avoid your stuff. The baggage you have, you can't leave in a locker. It stays with you.
Yeah.
So it's well worth taking the time when you're single, personally, I recommend, to do that work, to go read books, take a workshop, go see a therapist, a coach, a counselor, a guide, get the support so you can unpack the baggage and put things away. So when you go into a relationship, you're not dragging your stuff with you, because the other part is same as if you're dragging a steamer trunk onto a plane or a train or onto a platform, station. It's hard work, and you end up, basically getting drained and tired. Emotional baggage has the same impact. It's just more on the emotional level than the physical level, but it does drain you and make you generally feel more tired, because the amount of energy you have available to express is partially occupied with maintaining that baggage. I talk about this lecture I went to that Barbara Andrews talks about. When you basically have a breakup or upset from a relationship, that baggage comes like icebergs on top of the ocean. And imagine the ocean's the amount of love you have, or the ocean's the amount of love you have the ability to express. But where the ice is, you can't express it. It's numbed. And the more baggage you collect and accumulate, the more ice covers the ocean. So you have less and less love you can express. That means you become less loving, less intimate, less open, less vulnerable, less able to have loving relationship. And you wonder what's wrong. Well, all that stuff you've accumulated, all the baggage, the ice that's been accumulated behind you, is what's wrong. And so your choice now is, do you want to keep going the same way with less than 10% of your ability to love available? No. Or do you want to say, you know what, I'm ready to change. I'm fed up being fed up, and I want to change things. So that's a good time to do the work.
I love that analogy.
Thank you. That was Barbara Angela. That's what I'm saying. Barbara Angela said, I'm not taking credit for having it. I'm taking credit for remembering it.
Yes. And sharing it.
Yes.
Yeah, so the thing is, and I love the car analogy too, that to do regular maintenance.
Yes.
Or, regularly, literally going through your closet to take out things that don't fit anymore, don't fit your lifestyle anymore, to do the same regular maintenance with your emotional life. If you're saying, God, I'm feeling weighted down with all these emotions, or, geez, I'm only meeting people that want casual relationships, or I'm only meeting people I'm not attracted to, or I'm only meeting people fill in the blank. Well, then look at why. What is it that you believe inside? What is it that you have experienced so many times it's become the norm, even though it's not fitting you?
Right.
It's like shoes that you've outgrown. They're not really fitting you. Like when I used to go to Jazzercise 6 days a week, they would scan my card when I'd come in, and they'd let me know when it was time for new shoes. Now, my shoes looked brand new because I only wore them in Jazzercise, so they didn't get dirty, but they knew how many times I could work out before the inside broke down, which I found fascinating. So they'd let us all know. It was, I can't remember, of some 150, some amount of over 100 classes. And to think, I'm not going to have the same support. And like I have in my calendar finally that you change your toothbrushes every 3 months. They don't feel any different to me till I get the new one and I go, oh, there really is a difference, because it's been this really slow accumulation of my toothbrush getting softer. So I've equated that with the maintenance that we do in our emotional life to be more emotionally healthy for dating, because we'll go, well, why do I want to look at that? That'll make me a bad person. No. As I said, there's most of the time really good reasons we did the things we did. We believed the things we believed. They made sense then. You don't give yourself a hard time for believing them or acting that way. You just say, does it fit me now?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't fit me now, then what do I do about it so that I can have something that I believe or some action that I'm doing that fits me better, that's going to get me better results in a loving, caring relationship?
Oh yeah. I mean, so much to unpack. That we keep talking about this stuff, but it is so fundamental. And I was actually in a clubhouse room yesterday and today talking about it at the same time. Is that we don't have relationship education in school. We have sex education, but you'd think we would need relationship education before we have sex education, but it's not even done. So what we're talking about here is really, it'd be great if we learned this stuff when we were 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
But we don't get that there. So we need to do this now.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Whenever now is, right?
exactly. I think it's time for a break. So maybe we'll talk about this after we get back.
We'll have so much more to unpack in the baggage department.
Indeed, we will.
Okay, back in a few.
The world fades to black and white. Well, I wouldn't mind. No, I would not cry, 'cause you are the rainbow in my sky. If the seas took us all away, well, I wouldn't mind. No, I would not pray if you are the ship sailing.
We're back. Talking about baggage. Is it yours?
Oh, lovely
Is it
stuff.
theirs?
Oops.
Yeah.
That's the wrong title. That's another show. You're sneaking ahead.
Yes. Oh, look at there. She's making sure we're paying attention, huh?
Sneak preview of the show.
She likes keeping us on our toes. I think that's
Indeed.
what goal is. Let's see if they're really paying attention to what
we're coaches. We've got to pay attention. It's our job.
I know. We pay attention to every detail.
Well, that's the idea anyway.
Mm-hmm. So is it their baggage or is it yours? And
Right.
as we say frequently, start with you.
Mm-hmm.
Start with you. What is it that's bothering you about this relationship? And is it something to do with you? Now, you and I've talked a lot because we're such huge fans of Alison Armstrong that a lot of times it can be a misunderstanding. So will we address that it could be that you're just not understanding, that they're thinking things differently than you, they act different than you, their dictionary inside is different than you.
Yeah.
And to still have a conversation about, well, tell me more about that. Why do you think that or do that, believe that? To see if it makes sense to you and you go, oh, well, we can just agree to disagree. But then you think of the things that are causing you strife. They're making you want to leave. They're making you more unhappy than you are happy. Then that's when you first say, what about me could be causing this? What about me is making me stay? What about me could be pushing their buttons because of what I do or don't do? I mean,
Right.
that's a lot of what happens in relationships, at least when I'm talking to couples, is they haven't really clearly figured out why I insist on the dishwasher getting loaded this way, and you can't even be grateful that the other person's loaded the dishwasher because it's not loaded this way.
Right.
And that's very intense. And it makes the other person, see, I'm not going to generalize or put sexes on this.
Right.
It makes the other person not even want to help, not even want to participate, not even want to please you because they feel like they can't. So to say, well, why does it absolutely 100% all the time have to get loaded this way?
Right.
See if the dishes come out clean. If they come out clean, then who cares? But it's those kinds of things that could be your old baggage that's interfering in the potential to be so much happier for both of you in your relationship.
Right. So let me just take the upper level or also meta level for a second. So
Yeah.
when you get upset because something happens with the dishwasher, notice
Yeah.
it's not the dishwasher that's upsetting you; it's the upset inside of you. So that's one thing.
Yeah,
You've got another level.
Yeah.
As one of the catchphrases from my master's program we talked about many times is, it's like it's not the issue that's upsetting you; it's how you relate to the issue that is in fact the issue itself. So that's the piece. So yes, as with Alison Armstrong's work, and also I love referencing Mark Gunger's videos with the Tale of Two Brains, to understand how men and women do communicate differently. So if there's difference of communication, that's not necessarily baggage. It's simply learning to navigate and understand each other's language. That's a key learning opportunity in a relationship, speaking heterosexually. Baggage, basically, though, is when something happens to the dishwasher and the upset feels familiar. One of the biggest clues to know it's your baggage is when that familiarity of upset shows up. That isn't something that out of the blue came like, where did that come from? What's this to do with anything?
Yeah.
You might get sometimes once in a while something you get upset about something like, where did that come from? When you check in about the upset, even though it's a different scenario, somebody goes, this is familiar. I've been here before. And that's the opportunity when you can say, okay, so that's the question. Where did I see this before? Where did I experience it before? Let the answer percolate. You may discover, oh, when I was 6 years old, my mum did this, and this is what upset me. And now at the age of 40, 50, 60, this is happening again.
Mm-hmm.
That's a clue. That's your baggage to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And for many of us, and I know did a lot of work myself, is that we carry so many the words that came up were sacred cows. That's interesting. But we carry these rules around about certain things you don't mess with.
Yep.
Especially things with parents, oftentimes we have such solemnity about what happened, even though it was good, even though it was bad, that we carry it around like a baggage, almost like it's porcelain inside, like layers and layers of bubble wrap inside a briefcase.
Yes.
You know, don't want to unpack it or do anything with it. Want to leave it safe. Don't touch it. Put it over there.
Yes.
Which makes relationships extremely challenging because you're so fragile.
Yes. And I love that. And so if we stick with the dishwasher thing, so if you look at and really dissect, well, why am I upset about this? Well, I don't feel honored in the way that I would like the dishwasher loaded. I don't feel listened to and heard because I've said this is how I want the dishwasher loaded. I don't feel they're caring about my things that are in the dishwasher. Okay. And why is all of that the big deal?
Mm-hmm.
How other ways are you not feeling heard and listened to or personally cared about or your things not cared about? Because the dishwasher, as you said, is a symptom.
Right.
It's not the cause.
Yes.
It's the thing that's now brought it up to have it in the front of your brain again, that it says, will you look at me this time?
Hello.
Will you pay attention to why I'm having this pop up and this little guy behind my head here? And boy, is that a grown-up thing to do.
Yeah.
Instead of it's all your fault and you're screwing up. It's like, why is this so sensitive? What trod path emotionally is this going down again for the 247th time?
Right. And on that same, using the same analogy, we talked about cars earlier, now it's dishwashers.
That's dishwashers.
We're doing appliances today. But one of the things also is that it may be that you sit there and you start saying, well, I told them this, they didn't do it and everything else. But what if you did something different? Maybe, for example, you was in the same rut where you basically watch somebody do something, you get upset, they don't treat you with respect, and that's the blame. What if you said, you know what, let me rearrange the dishwasher myself and try it out, see what happens? And that might be the only thing you need to do to change the baggage entirely, because the truth is the baggage is tied up to a certain routine, a certain experience. And yes, it's nice to work through all the issues and get through the depth and figure out all the problems and blah, blah, blah. But if you just change the actual way you do something, it might be the same result ultimately, which is really kind of cool. When you figure out that, like, if I do the dishwasher instead of them, I'll do it my way, which is, first of all, is great news for me. But secondly, they may actually be happy because they don't have to do it anymore. And third, we might both win because we both get happy and we get to relax. Because the thing is, you're both happy and not, instead of doing this, you're going, oh, okay, we can relax.
Cooperating.
Yeah. So it's learn how to navigate and finding your way through to solutions that you may not have thought of before.
So wouldn't that be a nice grown-up thing to say, you know, hun, I have this thing about the dishwasher. So I'll just load it. I really appreciate you offered to do it, but I'm just a thing. I have a thing about it. So I'm just going to load it. And it would make me really happy if you did this. You cleared the table or you rinsed them, but let me do the loading. I really want to do the loading. So I have this client that she's in a fairly, 4-month relationship, and they went away for the weekend. It was a big deal. And we were talking to do our debriefing after, and she said, you know what got on my nerves? And I heard you talking to me in my ear. She goes, I would clean up the kitchen in this Airbnb that they'd rented, and he'd come behind me and wipe down the counters. I said, oh, how did that make you feel? She was really dismissed, like I was a little kid, and I couldn't believe that he was doing that. And I said, and then what did I say in your ear? She goes, what would be a good reason that he was doing that? And I said, what did you come up with? She said, he was in the military and everything has to be completely shipshape. And even though I believe I left it shipshape, he had to just double check it. She goes, and I calmed down. I was like, yay.
Amazing how simple that can be.
And they could have spoiled their whole weekend.
Well, the other thing is also, and that's the teaching in this, is that until you stop and instead of reacting, going, why are they doing it that way? Because that is the clue right there. When you start to understand someone's motivation may not be against you, it may just be the way that they did it because that's the way they were raised. Again, your baggage or their baggage. So when you figure that out, it's like you go, I understand this is your way of doing it. I'd love to do it too. Can we find a way that works between us, or do I just let it go and you do the whole thing? That's the thing. You have all the opportunities to communicate, but the thing is, most people, many people don't learn to communicate that way. They basically get into upset.
Even with themselves. But they don't even communicate with themselves that way much. And I love that because that's what.
Oh yeah, because it's that position thing. Yeah, it's that positioning thing. Just so it's not. It's like the joke about saying you want to be right, you want to be happy. I actually had an argument with one of my friends earlier today about this. That's not exactly a one-to-one thing. So no, it's the point. The premise though is that somebody gets so attached to a position that will fixate on that one thing so much that there's no room for us to be flexible, happy, or loving, or anything else. Because we're so going to be righteous about something. And it becomes that stake in the ground and never going to be moved. And it's like, is that really worth it? Maybe you want to go with the stake and take all the splinters out of your hand and actually go with the flow and see what happens.
What a concept, huh?
Anything's possible.
So if you're constantly miserable, because that's what people say, that the baggage is making them miserable.
Yes.
Then start with, what is it that's making you miserable inside of you? Are you feeling dismissed? Are you feeling like you're not speaking up for yourself? Are you feeling like they're not listening to you? Then is there something you could say or do differently? Because my favorite thing too is, and you have this too, where they'll say, well, what should I say? And so I'll tell them, they go, I said that. So now I've learned to say, really? Wow, tell me what you said. And it's never what I say they should say. Ever.
Right.
Not one person. And I'm waiting for the person who's going to say my words. And I go, Oh, and how did that work? Well, it didn't work. So how about if we try my words? Well, aren't they the same? No.
No.
And then they come back and they go, it worked. I go, oh, I know. And I didn't know this for a really long time. And I am a huge convert now because it works for me. And I see that it works for clients. So that's also a lot of it is the way we speak to the other person
Yes.
can make whatever their baggage is so much huger, so much harder for them, harder for you. You know, it's like waving a red flag in front of a bull. You know, it's not necessary to do that. So if you use your words differently, if you learned, got past your baggage and learned how to use your words differently, it's amazing how you can make things still get what you want and need in such a smoother manner.
Yeah. The dangerous thing we have is when we get into a relationship, we think they love us, therefore we can assume certain things.
Yes.
The assumption piece is huge. It's like, as you said, you know, change the question you ask, change the statement you ask so that the other person can respond differently. But when you assume that what they did was against you, there's no room for any change. So when you can actually be in a place where when you notice something happening and then you sit with it and go, okay, so they're doing something different. That isn't against me. Must be something else. So what is it they're doing and why they're doing it? Get curious versus resumptive. And then watch the miracles unfold.
Oh, taking it personally. That is a whole trunk of its own, right?
Right. That's
Oh
baggage.
my goodness. Such baggage. Taking things personal when the majority of the time, truly, I was bound and determined to figure out how it was personal. And when I really looked at stuff, most of the time it was all them and it had so little to do with me. And when I thought it was all them and it had everything to do with me, it's
Right.
really been amazing how inaccurate I saw the personal. Don't you see that? That it's them making it personal to me when it's not, and me not accepting the personal when it really is me.
The things I mean, let's be transparent here also. I think for both of us, you know, we know we're always learning and growing. We're not dumb by any stretch of the imagination, but we're getting better at catching ourselves.
Yes.
And that's all we can ask of anybody else too. You do your best to
Because
catch yourself because we're all, you know, works in progress, so to speak.
there's nothing perfect about any of this.
No.
But that's what it is that you notice later and go, oh, look what I did. And then you apologize sincerely. And
Yeah.
then you'll catch yourself closer and closer to the time of doing it, the more you practice. That's the really cool thing about it. You really can
Exactly.
get so good at this. And still it's going to come up. There's still going to be stuff, especially, you know me, I'm not good if I haven't had enough sleep or enough to eat. I can be on my last nerve, and it's not even something that would normally bother me, but it's going to bother me because I didn't eat or sleep. And
Right.
the poor person's going to get this blast, and it's so unfair.
It's huge. And it's actually, to me, it's the journey of mastery in a way. Is that we know there isn't a destination necessarily, but you're getting better at yes, maintaining our boundaries, but also getting better at being, and again, I've talked this before, being less in the reaction space and more in the responsive space. So we can ask the right questions, or we can start seeing the other person's perspective and see, oh, that's why they're doing it. And it's nothing to do with me, and it's okay. I realize that they're helping, or doing their way because that's their way they learned. And then it's no longer baggage. It becomes curiosity. It becomes a conversation. It becomes transformation for both.
And growing.
Yes, growing.
Yes. That's the thing. I go, oh, phew, look what I got to learn, even if it was painful. And I found it's nice because it makes the road less bumpy. And it makes it easier, or at least less hard, to navigate the bumps, those sudden turns. Oh, yeah, there's that thing again. I mean, you're like, oh, I thought I learned that. It's just another layer of the onion. That's often what happens, is that if you've been this way for 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years, when you finally notice it, it's not going to change overnight. Be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. I'm working on it. Oh, there it is again. I'm working on it.
Yeah.
Then you get tons
practice.
of passes for that.
Yeah. But the thing is, your intention is to make progress.
Yes.
If you try to make a change, doesn't work, and you give up and go back the way it was, that's not progress.
No, no.
I gave it a try. It's like, no, you didn't, because you didn't actually really go into it properly. You just gave up and went back the way you were. That's the lazy way of doing it.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
No, you go, okay, I see that I did better this time. Even if it was just a little better. I saw that I noticed finally. I said something a little different this time. Wow, I didn't get as upset this time. I mean, you give yourself credit for that, and then you strive to do better each time.
Yeah.
As Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you get to do better.
That is, frankly, the opportunity. But so many people aren't necessarily awake to that opportunity.
No, it's brave. It really takes bravery. You know, we keep quoting people, and I'm going to quote Brene Brown when she had that Teddy Roosevelt, you know, that you get credit for just being in the arena, being sweaty and dirty and working at it. Just being there, making the effort. You get lots of credit for that. You don't get credit for sitting on the sidelines going, yeah, this is too hard, or I don't want to even look at it, or it's all the other people's. When you put yourself out there and go, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to work on it, and I'm not going to be perfect at it, certainly not right away. I'm going to keep challenging myself to look at new stuff and new ways. Boy, those are my people, really.
Yeah, to look at the lens of point, or look at it from the point of view that if you want to have an elevated relationship and a high quality relationship better than you've done in the past, as you're one of the two people in that relationship, do the work for yourself.
Yeah.
Because, you know, key is do the work on yourself, to take the time to really do your own dishwasher maintenance and car maintenance to transform the way of being, so that when you do meet somebody else, you're in a much more fluid and comfortable place. And so when you get together with somebody, you're not bringing all your hooks, barbs, and other baggage to make their life miserable, because you don't adjust to the way they are, and they have no room to come back to adjust the way you are. So being willing to gain mastery of your own self and heal your own baggage makes for much better relationship choices down the road.
And people tell me once they've learned this and start practicing it, that the people they really want to have close relationships with, or they already do, they've even gotten better. And the people that were harder left. Isn't that a nice extra bonus for doing that work on yourself?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the perk.
Well, yeah, it helps us get even the right kind of people in our life, for
Absolutely.
friends, family, and lovers.
Worth every moment.
Every moment. Wow. It's juicy and wonderful. So if you are ready to look at your baggage, Barry and I would be so happy to talk to you about it.
Indeed, we would.
And the way that you can get a hold of me is at my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com. Click on what's holding you back from love, and we can have a confidential personal conversation about what's not working in your life and how I might be able to assist you on making it better. You can also send me an email at christine@theperfectcatch.com. And you can find me and my videos and my newsletter on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest and YouTube. And did I say them all?
No, Instagram.
Instagram. So many reasons I depend on you, Barry.
Well, I appreciate that being one of them.
Thank you. Many
Sure.
things. So please tell people how they can reach you.
Absolutely. So to reach me is actually quite easy, because all of my social media and my name is my website. Which is all my social media and my website is my name. Let's put it that way around. Except on Instagram, which I'll get to. So if you want to do the same thing I offer is, if you want to reach out to me for a conversation, on my homepage on my website, which is barryselby.com, there's a Let's Connect button at the top. You can definitely schedule a session with me there to discover where you are and where you want to go, and if I can help you. At the bottom of that screen is a invitation to join my email list. You can do that as well if you wish to. And also there's my online program, my book, some videos and blog and a few other things on my website as well. You can email me from there. Also, go to just drop an email to barry@barryselby.com. And on my social media, as I mentioned, all my social media is Barry Selby. So except for Instagram, so LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest is all, and Clubhouse is all Barry Selby, and then Instagram is the real Barry Selby, because that's changed my account name. But I'm very active in all those platforms, especially on Instagram. So if you want more help or you want to follow me, check me out there.
Wow. Yes, we have lots of ways for people to find out what we're doing, and we'll be back again next week talking about another wonderful, intriguing subject at 1
Yes.
o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. So if you found this interesting, be sure to comment and share it with other people that you think might find our information helpful or interesting. And we'll look forward to you coming back again next week.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, and definitely invite your comments. I'm curious to see what people think of this. So
Yeah, I think it's a really good subject.
I think so. And next week, even more fun and games. We'll see what we can talk about then.
I think so. Bye for now.
See you then.